Welcome to the Live Fully with Kratom podcast. I'm ETHA co-founder Alexander, and with me is fellow co-founder Victor Chung.
That's me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We also have our producer Nicole and our assistant producer Baltazar in the room today.
Yeah, new hire. New hire. Welcome, Baltazar.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be behind the scenes and not in front of the camera.
For now. We can't have another Nicole, right? Or Nicole just refuses to go on camera. We're getting you there.
Well, today we are going to talk about Kava.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
love Kava.
Let's get
Especially our
started.
Kava. I'm a little biased, but yeah, let's get started. All right, before we get into it, I'm going to talk about some updates in the Kratom industry.
Yes. You want to go for it?
Sure, yeah. So I read up last night that the American Kratom Association has been encouraging the FDA to write letters and try to do some enforcement around this big problem that we all know about and deal with constantly, this proliferation of 7-OH and M-pseudo and all those kind of synthetic derivatives and, you know, products that are labeled as kratom but are not kratom. And have issues with addiction and tolerance buildup and, you know, all the kind of bad stuff. And, you know, we're about to go to Champs in July. Like, oh, it's already July. I'm sorry.
End of the month. Yeah, a couple weeks. Like what? 3
a couple
weeks.
weeks. Oh, jeez. Yeah, we need to prepare for that, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, the last one we were at was in February, and I would say there were more 7-OH vendors than there were kratom vendors or anything else.
Well, I mean, and at least it's unfortunate because that trade show brings a lot of awareness to kratom, and it's unfortunate when I say that because the kratom industry is much larger than is what's just represented at Champs. And
Absolutely.
So that is the part that I don't like, is that it's giving this connotation that people are using kratom for more of a recreational side, when most of the people that are using kratom have their own health and wellness benefits they're trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's overrepresented in that industry, unfortunately. But yeah, to your point, it's now shifted from these kind of potent kratom extracts to now 7-OH products, and there's so many companies. It's unbelievable how many companies are popping up and trying to just get into the 7-OH market. And these are kind of it seems to be people that are in those distribution channels of
Smoke shops
THC,
and-
hemp-derived THC, whatever other product goes into that smoke shop category, and they're now seeing this opportunity just to make a quick buck, and they're doing whatever they can to quickly put a product out there, and it's giving kratom a bad connotation.
Yeah, absolutely. So the American Kratom Association urged the FDA to go out and write letters to some of the major
To do their job,
to do their job, essentially.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, which is always good. They just do their job. And now the next step is, okay, you write a letter, you warn folks, but are you going to do any enforcement? Are you going to take action? And that's to be seen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We hope
it's a good step. At least there's some, as opposed to the FDA just ignoring the potential issue, and so now they're taking some action. At least the first steps in it. So that's great.
Yeah, and the things that they cited were kind of the common stuff that we see all the time. I'm trying to remember. It's calling it kratom, labeling it improperly when it's not. It's 7-OH, 7-hydroxymitragynine. It's not kratom. Making claims. It's always on there. I think there's a third one too.
FDA's enforcement is generally around labels. So calling it kratom is mislabeled. Not providing directions of use is also mislabeling. And then any kind of probably claims or health benefits is another additional mislabeling they can't do.
I wonder if they're citing like what we're noticing is folks are saying that it's a certain potency, certain quantity of these different, you know.
And that's also that's an FTC, just a Federal Trade Communications Act that is violated, so that any product cannot misrepresent the product. As far as if I'm going to give you 12 ounces of water, it has to be at least 12 ounces of water in that bottle. So that there is that kind of violation as well. Yeah,
and that is rampant. Like, you know, 7-OH already has issues, and now we're also having issues where we're telling people there's 30 milligrams of 7-OH and there's only 7 or 10 or whatever it is, and it's just just a mess.
Yep.
So hopefully this cleans up. Anyway, so good on that part. Anything else? I don't know if we had another thing we wanted to talk about here.
I don't know. Oh, well, quick update on, you mentioned you had some sleeping issues and you were looking at mouth tape.
Yeah.
So I finally have found this mouth tape that I'll give you to try out.
Nice. Okay.
And so now this is a very large patch, which, as you can see, is kind of designed to cover your entire mouth, which this is, I mean, maybe some people need that effect of the whole entire mouth being completely sealed, but generally what I've read from, I think, like Breath by James Nastor, is that you only need actually just like a small, you can cut this into a small little strip that just
I like that.
goes over.
Make it
like,
last longer.
Yeah, and that way, like, you know,
cheap,
if you
the cheap person,
make it last longer. But then also, you're not
And
actually
me.
sealing your mouth, so if something happens, you can still kind of breathe around it. There's no need to actually seal your
psychology
mouth.
too.
Exactly.
Like,
It's just a little bit to remind your mouth to be kept closed, not necessarily to fully seal it so you can't breathe out your mouth. You don't need to do like the Matrix and remember like Neo when his whole lips disappear. Like, you don't need that side. So
or stuff a sock in.
Yes.
One
and what's nice, I mean, you can use a lot of different tapes, but you know, this is going to be skin friendly. It's not going to, you know, tear off your skin or bind too strongly. So it should be a nice kind of medical grade adhesive and remove easily in the morning.
Right. I love that tip, by the way. You know, I was raised very poor, and so I still, no matter how much money I'll ever
might
have,
as well. I mean, save. There's no need to
bastard.
waste.
And I'm like, ooh, I can cut this into 4. Yes. And cheating the system is always nice.
You're also saving the planet. I mean, there's no need
there
to.
There you go.
This is good for Gen. What gen are we on? Gen Z. What's after millennial? Gen Z,
right?
Gen Z. Right,
What are you gonna do after that? We ran out of letters, right?
Gen AA, like the double A's.
Reset.
We're getting there.
All right. Well, I got big lips, so I don't know. You know,
Try it out.
I might need the whole thing.
Lisa might actually. She's like, oh no, I think I use the whole thing, Victor. Oh, you can't talk. Okay, that's fine.
I know. Last night she was like, I bought this nose thing, opens up your nose, and it does help a bit. I still snore, but she's like, get your nose thing on. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'll just sleep in another room. I don't want to even deal with this. I'm out of here. Anyway, thanks, man. That's really helpful. Okay. Let's get into this. So the topic is
Kava.
Yeah. All right.
Sometimes it's called Kava. Sometimes I see it Kava. Don't know why, but Kava.
The traditional way of saying it was maybe Kava.
Probably.
I don't know.
Piper methysticum, I think, is like the Latin name for the botanical.
All right.
And it is related to like the pepper family of plants. So that's why it has like a very spicy flavor, like very noticeable spiciness to it.
Yeah. It's like for me, it's like slightly muddy, earthy, but then has that black pepper kind of taste to it. Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually, it's a shrub that grows, I think primarily like in Fiji, is very renowned for, so like the Polynesian islands. Mm-hmm. And it is a small shrub that grows, and it's actually the roots that are harvested. So that's why it has that very earthy taste to it. And what's interesting is that the way the plant spreads, it'll kind of put out side roots, like to kind of grow the plants along the ground, almost like ground cover. And then over time, small roots go very deep into the ground. Oh. And so those deep roots are the ones that have most of the kava lactones, and those are the very desirable ones that are harvested, is the deep, older roots. That
do you think that's like, you know how like with Kratom, there's a bunch of lore from traditions, and when you actually do the lab testing, it was like, you know, old leaves are going to be higher, more potent, powerful than young new leaves, and we found that wasn't always true.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes and no. I mean, it's interesting because, you know, like, yes, there is lore that, only an old tree will produce mitragynine, has to wait several years. That was not true. Mm-hmm. However, the tradition in Thailand of taking a leaf that's 3 nodes back or further, that did produce more mitragynine compared to the newer leaves. And so I would say that, you know, it's what the long-term kind of tradition has is just long-term trial and error. And that's kind of really what, you know, everything we do is really trial and error. Mm-hmm. And so that long-term ability to try things out does have some
there's some truth to it. Yeah. Right.
And so it does, and it does seem to be truthful with kava as well, is what I would assume.
Okay. All right.
And now, I mean, the important part with kava is that I think back in the early 90s or 2000s, someone was harvesting kava or selling kava in Germany. And there's a few different kind of stories around it, but essentially it does come into somebody was selling kava, and they were upset that, hey, we're harvesting this plant and we're only using the roots. Why don't we use the whole entire plant?
The toxic side.
Yes, exactly. So the aerial parts of the plant, the parts that grow above ground, actually produce liver toxins, and so that caused this big concern and gave Kava, a very high concern of, well, we can't use it. It was kind of banned for a little bit until we understood the actual root cause. And so, yes,
you're going to be a great dad. Jokes like that. Yeah.
So,
whenever oftentimes when I bring up Kava, the question of, is this good for my liver? And that always comes up. And that's the origins of it.
Yep. It's because of that issue of somebody trying to be a little bit too focused on profits rather than understanding what parts of the plant should be used. So as long as the roots are only harvested, the above ground aerial parts are not used, then it seems to be safe and effective.
No issues with your liver.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's
I knew there are probably other, but getting more into the research, there are many Kava lactones. So kind of just like how Kratom has several alkaloids that interact with various receptors, there's several Kava lactones that interact with different receptors in our body. And there are potential that some of those Kava lactones have more stress on the liver as they're processed. So there's probably more research to really understand which, how much can be used and but traditionally it does seem okay.
Yeah. If we need to focus on a particular Kava lactone versus the other, and it's that same challenge, right?
It's the same
as you know more,
but that's what's
that
and
you don't know increases.
And it's also, it's the same challenge and benefit, and that's the interesting part is that in the pharmaceutical world, we know that multiple compounds interacting together produce a more desirable outcome than just one single receptor. Everything is much more complicated in our body than just, this one single Kava lactone or this one single molecule is all you need for what, the beneficial effect we're trying to get out of it. But yet pharmaceuticals are still trying to portray this single molecule, single drug narrative that we just know is not true. And probably just because it's easier from their marketing standpoint, and they
much more profitable.
And and they would much rather sell you 5 medications than one single plant, right? So that's yes.
Speaking of that, are there any legal issues around Kava at all?
No. That's the...
Okay, good.
Yeah, we don't have the same challenges with kind of the uncertainty around Kratom. Kava has a longer history of use in kind of traditional supplement world. So we do have that as part, and there's harmonized tariff codes for importing. There's just people are much more aware of Kava. And so we don't have that same issue.
That's good. That's good to hear. Do you know of any pharmaceutical companies that are working with or have disclosed any research that they're doing on Kava?
I know Oliver Grundmann. So Oliver Grundmann is a researcher in the Kava or in the Kratom world that we're very familiar with. He's done a lot of great research. I know he's also been doing research on Kava for many, many years. And that's where there is potentially some, hopefully, development. I hope most pharmaceuticals are shifting back towards natural because the big use on Kava is really around kind of the anti-anxiety effects. And that's mainly because one of the Kava lactones, or a couple of them, interact with the GABA receptors. And so this is very famous or similar to benzodiazepines that are used for anti-anxiety. And that's why there is some research in the Kava space.
Yeah. What's been your experience when you use Kava?
I use it mainly for kind of two main areas. I would say sociability. So I really like it as an alternative to going out and drinking. So people are out drinking and having some fun. It's like, oh, well, kind of missing out a little bit. But I've used our Kava cinnamons, and those have been great for me. And that's because Kava lactones interact with the NMDA receptor, which is the same receptor that ethanol, that alcohol, interacts with. So that's why you kind of get some of that crossover of like, I feel more social, I feel more relaxed, I'm kind of be more open and just have fun. That's where you kind of get some of that sociability, most likely interaction.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing. Kava bars pop up across the U.S.
Yeah, and then the other second main use that I've really kind of started using it recently is since I've been getting back into golf. And golf is a lot of twisting of the spine to kind of get all that energy and power for a nice swing and consistency. And because I have the lower back issue, my muscles, will tighten up and protect itself. But I found that taking Kava before I play golf has been amazing for keeping all the muscles loose. And that's primarily because some of the Kava lactones interact with either like a calcium channels or potassium channels. And so basically the way your muscle contracts and expands, that calcium and potassium channel is what allows your muscle to relax. And so the interaction with the Kava lactones helps that muscle relaxation.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been, I mean, it's, for me, it's been great because
I've never thought of it. I just think of it as a recreational, social,
but there's
botanical, but there's actual,
there's actually some surprising, at least for me, you know, and I'm sure there's others that have kind of similar, because your body is, and that's where there's that complicated side, because our bodies do protect itself. And just like
inflammation,
and that's the thing, you don't want to get rid of that necessarily, right? Because it's like with zero inflammation or zero pain, then you're gonna hurt yourself, or your body doesn't know where to grow and have that stress response to actually signal what can be improved. So it's that weird double-edged sword to everything.
It's like everything, you know, even water. You know, it can be dangerous at some amount, some level.
And that's also where, I mean, I know, I remember Oliver Grundman was talking about some of his research where some of the Kava lactones kind of have dual roles, where they'll increase dopamine, but then they'll also say, so you get kind of this like mood boost, sociability, anti-anxiety, but then sometimes they also down-regulate dopamine. So it's kind of like, well, they're kind of doing the opposites. And that's where it's kind of confusing, but also beneficial, where that way, I think that's why, you know, you don't get the abuse potential, or if you try to consume too much, you don't just get this over activation like we see from pharmaceuticals that only target one thing and only do one thing. That's where you get these problems that really kind of get out of control pretty easily.
The botanical kind of like self-regulates. You know, it's hard to abuse. You know, actually, I put these out here because my favorite way of using Kava is to pop one of our Kava cinnamons. But then I miss out on the drinking part, the actual holding a beverage and drinking. So I, you know, recently went up to Big Bear. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it actually kind of looks like a ceremonial beverage. Your green goo. I don't know. Anyway, I went up to Big Bear, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and with the family, doing some ATVing and all that stuff. You were supposed to be there, but you left me.
I would have done. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. Anyway, you know, and you know, my brother loves to drink, and so you know, he has his beer and stuff. And I was like, I want to have something. And so our refresh is what I just had, and you know, just poured out to a regular cup, and then. And it's like, it's enough flavor. It's enough, like, so you don't just down it all the way. It's a good just sipping thing, just hanging out, talking, and add the cinnamon. That combination just kicks so much butt. It was so good. I was happy. I was great. You know, and the energy level was good, and it was just a wonderful time. Yeah, so I highly recommend it if you guys. There are a lot of products actually where they combine Kava and Kratom. We keep it separate, and it was intentional because we wanted to give folks the option to choose which Kratom they want to pair up with Kava. It's kind of better to regulate the dosage on both sides. And I love that because, you know, I didn't even have the full mint. I just had the mint for like half the time, then I just swallowed it, and then I drank a refresh, which isn't super high. It's not super potent. I just want a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and well, it was a wonderful time. So highly recommend refresh and our cinnamons.
Yeah, and you mentioned ceremonies, and yes, the traditional use of Kava is from the Polynesian islands, and because of the islands, they had many different tribes in kind of small areas, and so when tribes would get together, it was a ceremony that, you know, as you can imagine, when different tribes are getting together, there's like heightened tension. Like, are these enemies? Are these friends? We don't know. Anxiety's high. And the reason that they would ceremonially consume Kratom or Kava together is that they wanted to reduce that anxiety, reduce kind of the tension, but not cause any kind of, you know, mental fog. And so I think that's where Kava is different from some of the other, say, anti-anxiety medications that will maybe make people more sleepy or kind of make maybe, you know, clouded judgment. You don't get that clouded judgment with Kava, but you get the reduced anxiety, the reduced tension. And I think that's where, you know, it's that traditional ceremony was a great way to bring new groups together and kind of get to know each other. So yes, it was a very ceremonial offering of new people coming together, reduce anxiety, get to know each other.
It's wild to me that there's a known thing that we can take that gives you all the benefits of this other thing that's super popular, alcohol or whatever it may be, but without all the drawbacks. And we're just like, but we still go back to the alcohol, right? It's like, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's tangible. It's real. It works. You know, like I try to get Edward to take a cinnamon and all that. No, that's not happening. But the next day, he did take a Kratom mint and took some Sunrise or Daybreak, I think. Daybreak got him through.
Nice.
Instead of like just downing coffees. You know, we're out in the middle of the desert for like half a day. There's no barista hanging out with us. So
I mean, Starbucks are everywhere, but not quite everywhere.
Yeah, so he had a great time and he wasn't tired. I'm like,
see,
Kratom baby. Anyway. All right. Anything else we want to share? I know we want to go a little bit shorter today. We were a little bit behind schedule today, so apologies on that. But anything else we should tell people about Kava? Anything else that we're probably missing? So we covered what it does, some of the history behind it, legality, kind of where it fits within like the ETHA portfolio of products, and
yeah, I mean it's.
Where can folks typically find Kava? You can find it at like even a Sprouts or
yes, yeah.
Right.
I mean, there are pretty much every grocery store will have a Kava tea in the herbal tea section. You can find a relax Kava or a relax tea that does have Kava in it.
Okay.
I think it's promoted as relax tea. It's like in a yellow and blue box. I can't remember the exact name of it. But yeah, in smaller letters, you will see Kava is in there. I don't know the correct, the dosage in that because those tea bags are always very small compared to what is needed. So it might take several tea bags to get a proper effect from it. I have also heard that Kava has a reverse tolerance because apparently the Kava lactones are more fat soluble, so it kind of builds up in our system.
I know of other things that do that.
Yep. Cannabis and THC is a very common reverse tolerance. Anything else? Yeah, it's
so widely available, easy to find. Kava bars are even becoming popular. You can buy it online. Go to ETHA. We have a Kava product that's amazing. So shouldn't be a problem to find it. Give it a go.
Yeah. And I think the only update is one of our partners is actually they were out in Fiji last week.
Oh.
Going out to Fiji to find some new varieties of Kava and kind of get some firsthand knowledge, get a good partner. So yeah, we may have some more interesting products.
Right. You
of
brought
Kava
this up.
Coming out
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. Ooh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like we have like, I don't know how many Kratom products at this point. Might have the same with Kava. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. All right, guys. Yeah, let's try it out. Let us know what you think. Share your feedback. We're learning as we go, exploring new varieties of Kava. And your feedback helps us to develop future products. So please share that knowledge if you can with us. So if you learned anything, had a good time, please support the show by shopping at ethanaturals.com and look up Cinnamints, Kava. You'll find it's pretty easy. If you have any questions or things that you want us to cover in future episodes, we're actually about to do Ask the Founders episode once a month. We try to just answer as many questions as we can. And your question could be on that list of things we need to cover. So please write to us at podcast@ethanaturals.com or go to any of our social media profiles. We're on IG, Facebook, X. Primarily X is where we spend a lot of time, and IG, not so much on the Facebook side. Write to us and we'll take your feedback in, your questions in. All right, guys. Until next time, I'm Victor.
I'm Alexander.
I'm Baltazar.
And I'm Nicole.
As always, live fully.